the Nike Pegasus Turbo Plus, a slight rebranding of a familiar shoe we've seen in the market. Does this one live up to the hype, or is this old news for us? So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed watching the content, thanks so much. Love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of updates and things like that. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs somewhere where you can see them. And the first probable question we see here is, Phil, why are we talking about Nike again? Well, first and foremost, I heard that this thing was coming out a little while back. I knew I was going to get my hands on it because I recognized that the Pegasus Turbo 2, a shoe that I've talked about on this channel, which was like overall, like across all categories, was like Nike's greatest daily trainer to come out. This was that shoe's original predecessor in the Pegasus Turbo. That's the shoe that this one is trying to emulate, right, with this pink stripe. As a matter of fact, I have that particular shoe right here, as you can see. I had this shoe for the longest time. I've used it, I've enjoyed it, and this particular piece was made January 31st, 2018. It's probably going to be really hard to see on the tag there on the bottom left here. But long story short, I really enjoyed this shoe when it first came out. It was a revolutionary piece. The first time we kind of had that ZoomX foam, React foam combination kind of sit together and give us a good time. And this was like pre-carbon plate shoe daily trainer kind of era, so this was still a hot piece at its time. Again, the pink stripe is there, different uppers, all that, but we're here to talk about the Pegasus Turbo Plus, which pays, I guess, homage to the retro model, in addition to some new features and some, I guess, pieces similar to the Pegasus Turbo 2, right? So we'll kind of get into all of that, and then we'll discuss the pros and cons and a major red flag that has happened at this point with the shoe. So, as you can guess with the immediate specs, about 9 ounces, that's like 258, 260 grams on average for me in a size 8.5 of this shoe. And now the stack height, I believe, is kind of in contention right now. I've read that this is about 35 in the heel and 25 in the forefoot, giving it that 10 millimeter offset. But it's possible that we could have a 38-28, still keeping the 10 millimeter offset with the high heel effect, but just slightly more stacked than is noted. So I'm working off the metrics I've seen more times than, the other would contend with. So other things to note, let's just check out the bottoms of the shoes just right off the rip. So I was running, the first day I had these shoes, basically I was running in a slightly rainy, slightly muddy kind of conditions. This time in the outer Chicagoland area is kind of pre-fall, or pre-autumn, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of it is more overcast weather, a lot more rain, kind of gloomy stuff. So we get a little bit more mud across the shoe. But yeah, right off the rip, other things to note here is that the outsole structure is kind of unique, right? They've got the rubber pieces here, the rubber in the heel, and then there's this open foam piece right in the middle, which I guess if you're a midfoot striker, it doesn't really bother you too much. The lugs in the shoe here still kind of overshadow this foam, so you're not striking direct foam when you're running in this shoe, which is great. And again, the areas of concern for me are always going to be on the outside for this shoe and sort of the tip of the area there. And right now, the rubber's in great condition. I think I put in maximum about 15-20 miles in this pair, so we're doing okay. And for what it's worth, the lugs are in great shape, the rubber's in fine shape, and because of some other features with the shoe, so like the fact that we have one giant slab of ZoomX going across and no carbon plate, what happens is the ride of the shoe is not nearly as aggressive as something with a carbon plate, right? And as a result, I would suspect that the foam and the rubber outsole would last a little bit longer just because there isn't a stiffness to the shoe that's relying on you getting this grab on the ground from this kind of shoe. So anyways, we'll move on. The upper is a Flyknit variant, as you can tell. The pink stripe, or the, I guess like, I don't know, maybe like this papaya kind of pink stripe, is a decal that's attached to the shoe. It isn't painted on like its predecessor from 2018 or the shoe it's trying to emulate. So that's just something worth noting. So when you pull the tongue, it's actually pulling the front of the shoe as well. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a tighter squeeze in the toe box if you're into that. There is a wider version of the shoe you can buy. I have the standard one from what I remember from the Nike website. Other things to note is we do have a gusseted tongue, which is great. We do just kind of have our typical textile weave for the shoe. We don't have any sort of like fly ease or I guess like cabling running through the shoe that was otherwise in its predecessor. You know what I'm talking about. This kind of stuff. With the cabling, and then it wraps around the shoe. It's got a name. I can't think of it right off the top of my head, but this one's just built in right here. So let's talk about ride. Okay. In terms of ride, the shoe is doing exactly what I was expecting it to do, which in this case is just be a comfortable, not too fast, not too slow type of daily trainer that can kick a little bit of speed when you need it to. And that's exactly where it is, right? It doesn't have like the grab on the ground that I expect from like a carbon plate shoe or a race day type of shoe, which is fine. I don't want it to do that. And without the carbon plate, it gives it kind of this refreshing edge where there isn't that stiffness to it. It has like the snap, it has a little bit of bend, a little bit of kind of crunch to the shoe that you would otherwise expect from something with a big Zoom X stack height like this. So the ride in the shoe, as I felt, has been very comfortable, and this might be a tangent, we'll see how far it goes. Like, the market of running shoes I don't think necessarily lies, right? So if a lot of customers run in a shoe and they just don't feel comfortable running in it, whether it's because the product line has changed, the manufacturing is terrible, something's ripping on the shoe, and it's over a grand scale, like a macro scale, like it's gonna be known, right? So Nike, in my opinion, and just from my analysis, had a streak like this between 2022 up to just recently, I would say, where the product was just garbage, in my opinion, again, right? And I think it's starting to come back around. Maybe someone on their board decided, like, hey, let's re-release the Pegasus Turbo, the shoe that really kind of jump-started our daily trainer enjoyment for the new running crowd. And as a result, we've got the retro version. It's got specs which are similar to the original Pegasus Turbo, and the ride feels comfortable. It's not painful. It's not the world's greatest ride. It's like right in between. It's an okay ride, and I think for Nike that's good enough right now, right? Is if you're gonna bring a customer back to your daily trainer market, have a shoe that's okay, that feels fine, that is built well, and isn't really betraying your customer. And now when we talk about the micros of like, you know, these specs don't fit my biomechanics, that's a different argument, right? First, like, make a product that's good, and then let's worry about those particular like ins and outs, right? Because you'll find something if you need it. So in this case, I'm happy with the ride of the shoe overall. It doesn't hurt my ankles, doesn't hurt my feet. The only thing that was just worth noting was I had longer toenails when I was running in this shoe, so that kind of ended up hurting in the toe box area, as a 10mm offset shoe does give you that high heel effect, and as a result, you're kind of diving in with your toes every time you run. So what happens is, like, you know, when you like push your fingernails on a table or something, like the nails kind of roll forward out and then your skin kind of rolls backwards. That's just what's happening on a repeated basis, and as a result, you kind of experience a little bit of soreness in like the nail area of the shoe. So trim your nails when you run in this thing, okay? Now, there's only one con and one major red flag to this shoe as it stands right now, and it's happened in my left foot. And it is sort of a manufacturing error, and as a result, it has some dire consequences for this particular pair of shoes. So, the second time I tied this shoe, I ended up ripping the eyelid area of the shoe when I was weaving it, okay? As you can see, it's kind of ripped. It's, the shoelace isn't holding well. It's just kind of not locked in as well, and even if it was locked in on this top lace, it doesn't make sense, because then when I would tie the shoe, I'm looping above this, right? Whereas the shoelaces are running underneath and sitting on the tongue. So the consequence here is, one, it's kind of an L in the manufacturing department that this piece particularly broke, and I don't know if it's anomalous. If it is, that sucks and it's unfortunate. But it hasn't happened in my right foot, even despite how I'm like tying the shoes there. But when it comes to the lock of this shoe, the left foot in particular becomes quite unstable. Just the ankle doesn't really sit well because this little area, because of a millimeter difference in eyelid, and especially because the shoelace is tying up here and it's not really looping her down here. So I'll have to play around with how to tie this shoe in order to bypass this problem if I want to keep this pair. Otherwise, I'm leaning more to my I guess normalcy bias, and I'm just going to exchange them. Like, I don't hate the shoe, I just want to fix this problem and continue putting miles in it. So that's the one concern. The one major red flag is if you have some manufacturing problems with it, I wouldn't even mess around. Just get them exchanged, get it fixed, and get running is kind of my thought there. So overall, like I said, this is a good start for Nike to get themselves back on their feet in the running department, to get their customer back. It's obviously paying homage to a shoe that was really kind of iconic for a little while there in 2018 and 2019. And yeah, 5-6 years later, here they come with the retro version of that original shoe with some new specs, kind of the same feels, same sensations that were in the shoe. And it also kind of just removes the carbon plate, which in my opinion gives it a more nostalgic feeling, considering all of these, or like a lot of these daily trainers on the market have the carbon plate, and it kind of loses the feeling of running with a shoe that's kind of more foam dependent than technology dependent or carbon dependent, right? So I think I'll leave it at that. If you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, I do like this color. Pink does add +10 to all speed stats, so you have to run in pink or any neon color. That's the rule. I didn't make them up. So yeah, pink Nike shoes with pink stripes and like this off-white color, grayish kind of trim. This is the move. Like, fellas, you gotta buy this shoe, right? So I will leave it at that. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.